So I'm Chase Twitchell. I'm the founder of FlowFX, and I'm super stoked to be having this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice
I
to meet you.
appreciate you took the time to be with us. And
Yes.
yeah, I mean, the
Absolutely.
questions we had is like, how did you come up with the drain? Like, how did that? I'm sure there's
the
a cool
drain,
story behind it.
So I kind of describe myself as a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business. So first off, I grew up in the worst trailer park in town, single mom. And I was 10 years old. And if I wanted anything, I had to go out and earn it. And our trailer park had community lawnmowers. So you could just go get the lawnmower and then take it out and use the lawnmowers. And that was my very first business, was lawn mowing. And I just knocked on doors and said, "Hey, do you want to get your lawn mowed for $5?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And part of it was that I was a kid, but I mean, $5 back in the 90s, that was a good deal. So that was kind of my first business. But when it came to shower drains, are you guys familiar with Rodcat with Rodcat or Rod Catwick with rodcat.com?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
So he
well,
made
shower concepts too. It's with them or
Yep. So shower concepts. They actually have a few locations now, but I'm really good friends with Rod Catwick, and I was working with him, and I was like, "Man, these shower trays are cool, but you kind of need your own tray to go with it." And I'd been looking into some other products that I could sell on Amazon FBA, just importing stuff. I was like, "Oh, we can just get one of those that are on Alibaba and import it." And the more I got looking into the market, I was like, "Man, there's like 2 bond flanges on the market. They're only really marketed to be used with that manufacturer's waterproofing membrane. It seems like there could be a universal bond flange that would be." I feel like there's a fit for that, and then that's kind of when I started out on the road of designing the drain that we have.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
but it was. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
it
no,
was,
that
it
was
was really Rodcat though.
Rodcat got you in the path of getting the drain.
Yep. It was one of those things where we originally were designing something to work with his foam trays, and then it kind of evolved into, okay, let's just make something universal that everybody can use no matter what they're doing.
So what was kind of the situation for you to go, okay, I need to be looking into creating something else, something better for these installations?
Let's say, what job was your last straw?
I've that kind of goes back to me being a serial entrepreneur. I've tried a lot of other businesses. I had a discount book for Las Vegas. So we're located in southern Utah, which is about 2 hours north of Las Vegas. So if we fly anywhere, we drive to Las Vegas. It's kind of like our home city. So when I was younger, I created this discount book for like local Las Vegas businesses, and we were selling it as a discount card. And that was kind of my first foray into like really trying something. Failed miserably, lost all my money. I think I had invested like 15 or 20 grand, and we maybe sold $1,000 worth of books, maybe. So definitely lost my ass on that one, but learned a lot. Just graphic design and websites and all that stuff. After that, I actually had a sock subscription where these guys would subscribe and wear a new pair of socks every day. After they wore that new pair of socks, they'd put them back in the box, and we provided a return shipping label, and they'd send those back to Goodwill. And that was pretty cool. We ended up selling like 100,000 pairs of socks in a year. But the margins, the margins on it, it really wasn't a viable business unless we had huge investment, and it was really cool.
Yeah,
it was tough. It was
the charity end of it. The charity attachment to it is like, you kind of like, you want to do this, but they're like, oh man, this is something good, so you kind of feel compelled to do it.
Yep. So I kind of have a saying that if you're going to do anything, you might as well do it well. And the problem with wearing new socks every day, I got samples, and the product could have been cheaper. But have you ever put on a pair of cheap socks that you put them on and you can feel your shoes through them and they're just not comfortable? So that's what the cheap ones were. So it's like, if I'm wearing new socks, I want Like the idea is that it's an experience. It should be comfortable. And I ended up getting really good socks, and it was a good value. The problem, the socks were too good, and guys wouldn't just wear them one time. They're like, oh, cool, I've got 30 pairs of socks, and they'd wear them for a year before they wore out. So the subscription model on that didn't really work out because the product was too good. So we ended up, which is, it's a unique situation to be in. But the model was, okay, we're going to spend this much money on advertising. We're going to lose money on the first month, but we'll gain it back by month 3. Well, they never got to month 3 because by month 2, they had 60 pairs of good socks. And so, yeah, it was one of those things where we sold a lot, but we didn't really make very much money because we spent so much money on marketing. And this was right at the time the Amazon FBA was starting to become popular. And I ended up making a trip overseas to a big trade show to look for products that we could sell on Amazon. And I saw just a lot of tile products, and you've probably seen them on Amazon now. They're generally low quality. They're stuff that you wouldn't really want to install. When it came time to make a drain for rod catch trays, I was like, oh yeah, we could just bring in one of those drains. And we looked at it, and I was like, man, I don't know if I'd actually want to install one of those. I think we could probably make something better. So that next weekend, I went out and got on YouTube and watched some tutorials on CAD, computer aided design. And by the end of the weekend, I had a really shitty prototype designed on my computer. But being so close to Las Vegas, I got on Facebook Marketplace and looked for a 3D printer and drove to Las Vegas, bought this printer, came back. And 2 days after I made that really shitty design, we 3D printed it. Well, I 3D printed it. And I had like the first, do you guys want to see it?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
That is gold right there.
So this right here is the very first FlowFX prototype. The flange is crazy. Let's see if we can autofocus. The flange is crazy thick. You'd never be able to actually injection mold that. Has no style. It's just it's pretty shitty in comparison to what we have now.
For sure.
Yeah, but what's
that made out of?
It's 3D printed. It's PLA. It's like the basic 3D printing filament. Yeah.
It kind of sounded like metal when you set it down. That's the only reason I asked.
Oh, I'll show you the metal one. So the very first one. So keep in mind, you've seen a lot of the cheap linear drains on Amazon. They're all sheet metal. So I thought we could make something out of sheet metal. So I just kind of hacked something up, hot glued it together. This was actually the very first version. That was the very first version. And then this was I realized that we needed to injection mold something just because you have better part geometries, you get better quality products. That was the first version. But kind of what that showed me is, okay, I can at least do some CAD work on my computer. Like I can get better at it. And so, yeah, I set out to do that. And I ended up making, it was like 78 different versions of the drain before I finally settled on one. And you have to be super careful because an injection mold, every single part is $10,000. And so when you're spending $10,000, when you're spending $10,000 of your own money on just one of the molds, and keep in mind the product takes 5 molds. And that's without even buying a plastic part. That's just so you got to make damn sure that what you're going to mold is going to be good and useful. So yeah, I made 78 prototypes or something before it finally settled on one.
So a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. Let's just put it this way. If we weren't in an era where we have 3D printing and you could rapid prototype, FlowFX would not be a thing. And if it was, it wouldn't be nearly as good as it was. Being able to see the part, hold it, feel it, and just get an understanding for the dimension and the size and the part relationship is huge when you're designing a product. And 3D printing was the biggest part of that for sure. And
Yeah,
lots of YouTube too.
So
I was just getting ready to say, so you're a YouTube certified 3D printer operator, and that's how you came up with this.
the guy's degree from YouTube University.
Yep, that's
That
right.
is what's up, man.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty cool because I actually have a cousin who went to school for injection molding.
Yeah.
He went to study all that stuff, and he wanted to go to Europe, and because I guess that's where the hotbed is for injection molding. But he never really pursued it. But seeing somebody actually do it, because I see the other guys make other parts with injection molding. But I know from patches like these, you got to buy the mold.
Yep.
And like for something this big, it's $300 for the mold. If you want layers, it's $300 per layer. So, but for something like that, I mean, like you said, 10 grand a pop. And if the mold is just not right or something's off, you have to go in because you have to mill these molds out. It's a process.
Yeah. So an injection mold is the size and weight of a small block Chevy engine. They're literally that big and weigh that much. So they're
that's why I kind of know that side. I went down a rabbit hole when it came to inject when he told me about injection molding.
See, my only experience with injection molding is like we used to make homemade fishing lures, like worm baits and swim baits.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a piece of aluminum that they run through a CNC machine and they mill it out. And you just take it and you can get a little syringe. And that was injection molding for me. I would think it wouldn't be that much bigger, but you're saying, I mean, the size of an engine block, that's a pretty
massive,
pretty big mold for, for in reality, a small product. I didn't know it was that advanced.
Well, I'm sure you got to push a lot of pressure into it.
Yeah. So the press that we use to make most of our stuff, it's a 40-ton press to give you an idea of the pressure that's involved. But not only that, it's a mechanical thing. It opens up, it has ejector pins, and so it runs relatively automatic. So essentially what happens, the mold closes, the plastic injects, it sits there and cools, has coolant lines. The injection molding machine has a cooling system. So it runs the coolant through to cool the plastic faster. As soon as it solidifies, the mold opens up and it pushes against a ramrod that pushes the injection or the ejector pins. And then it pops the part out the bottom. It closes and then does it again. So it's
about how fast does it do that?
About a minute. About a minute.
Really?
It depends on the part. Yeah.
Wow.
So our bond flange, we make about 1 per minute. Some of the other parts, so our shims, for instance, I'm sure you've seen a model car, how they come on the frame and all the parts are on the frame. So our shims come out of the mold very similar to that. So it's all 4 shims. So we have the 3 thick and the 1 thin, and we trim it off the frame. And that's literally why we have 3 thick, 1 thin. Just that's what it makes per shot.
Huh.
So
that's the cool thing about that mold. And how long did it get the right plastic?
So luckily I don't know if it's actually not lucky. It kind of is a pain in the ass, but for plumbing products, there's certain standards, and we have to use a certified resin. So we don't get to choose what we use. We have to use something that's certified. So the ABS has certain parameters that it meets. One of the big ones is the deflection under load. So they heat it up to a certain degree, and it can only deflect a certain amount at that temperature. And it's like an eighth of an inch at 180 degrees, for instance. And that's based on not our part, but a part geometry. So they have a specified part geometry that they use to test. So they'll mold, let's say it's a rod. So that rod is the default geometry that they make for the test. So they take that rod and they test it with that resin.
So the drains essentially have to go through testing prior to production.
Yeah. So we're ICC certified and code compliant with, it's like 23 different codes, UPC, CUPC, Los Angeles Plumbing Code. There's like I said, there's like 15 different codes. So it's a big deal. When we got our inspection for the ICC listing, we actually had to get an ISO certified measuring device, which is essentially just a slug that it's a go no go. It's a go no go gauge, but it essentially just looks like a slug of steel, and the tolerance is so small. It looks just like a piston, but it has a stop. So if it goes in, then great. If it goes in both of them, then that's out of spec. If it won't go in the first one, then it's out of spec. So you want it to go over the first step and not go over the second step. And that's how we check the tolerances on the pipe fitting. The other stuff doesn't matter so much, but the pipe fitting is the really critical part.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's got to, if you're using glues, well, cements actually, you can't be too gluey, too small.
Yep, they need to fit tight enough that they can actually have a solvent weld, and if they don't fit tight enough, there's not enough pressure for them to achieve a good weld.
So let me ask, I guess since it's dancing near the topic I wanted to bring up, is reoccurring problems that you kept running into. Like I guess a hard point, if you had any, that you tried multiple ways to fix it, and it just seemed to come back and bite you in the ass. Because that's what I'm kind of interested in, is like the trials and tribulations and the obstacles you ran into, even to get to your final product, like you're finalizing the final product. Something wasn't adhering properly.
Oh man!
I'll tell you what. I've done some hard things in my life. Hands down, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it was problem after problem in the beginning. I remember sitting there in the early stages and just thinking, man, can't just one thing go right. And it was the whole process to begin was hard. So good example, our fabric that's on the surface. A lot of people think that's glued on. It's actually not glued on. It's molded in to the part. And finding the right fabric was super challenging. I had the molds made overseas, but we imported the molds to have the parts made here in Utah. While the molds were still overseas, we were trying to figure out the fabric situation. And every 2 weeks they'd try something else. It wouldn't work. They'd try something else. And then finally I found it's actually a proprietary fabric, and it worked out super good in pretty much every way. It molds really well. But most importantly, it's got a woven structure. So thin set and adhesives actually embed into that better than some of the other ones on the market. So that was kind of, that worked out, but it was like a 3-month ordeal just finding the right fabric. So most of our parts are made right here in Southern Utah. Through the process, I was working with the owner of a local injection molding place. He has 20 years of experience. He kind of helped me with some of the decisions on what mold maker to go with. He kind of looked at some of the specs and was like, oh, well, this one uses this type of steel. This one uses that type of steel. It'd probably be better where you're molding PVC because PVC is super corrosive, which I'll mention something about that in a minute. But he helped me quite a bit. Finally get the parts to where they're coming out of the mold good, fabric's good, have the molds being shipped here. And I go down to visit this guy. He's 25 minutes away from our shop here in Cedar City. And he's like, oh, hey, this is the new guy that's taken over the business. You'll be working with him now.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm sure it's going to be fine. It wasn't fine. It wasn't. This guy, he had very little knowledge in injection molding, and we really struggled to get good parts out of him. Honestly, even until maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we were still struggling with this guy. We'd get a really good batch of products, and we'd get kind of a bad batch. But that was a huge struggle just having this guy come in. PVC is one of the hardest things that you can injection mold. If you call injection molders, you're going to call 100 injection molders, and there will probably be 5 that are even willing to talk to you if you have a PVC product. And the reason for that, most products are made out of ABS. So imagine heating up ABS, or imagine heating up candle wax and it's fluid. You could like pour it out. That's kind of how ABS is when it's in its moldable form. It's really fluid, injects into the mold really easy. Whereas PVC is more like peanut butter. It's really stiff. And because it's so stiff, just the act of pushing the material through the screw generates so much friction that it increases the heat of the plastic, so it'll run out of range. So just the friction makes it go out of range. And when it goes out of range, it emits toxic polyvinyl chloride gas. So, you know, the Ohio train wreck that just happened? And there's a big deal about all the toxic gas. Okay, that's the exact chemical that they use to make PVC plastic. So that's how toxic this stuff is. And when you run it out of spec, mostly on the high end, it emits that gas. So I'd go down to check on the run, and with the injection molder, if you'd go in there, you didn't smell anything, you're like, all right, this guy's having a good day, he's making some good parts. If you went in there and it smelled toxic, it was they were having issues. It'd be one of those things where he could make 20 or 30 PVC flanges or so, and then it would run out of spec, and that's about all he could do at a time. And in the beginning, you know, PVC, you guys are probably all using PVC. You guys are all on the East Coast, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's about 70% of what we do is PVC. So this was a huge piece of the puzzle, is getting this PVC molding right. I got to a point where he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll have the parts for you tomorrow. I'll have the parts for you tomorrow." And they just got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I took the molds from him to another molder that was like, "Oh yeah, no problem. We run PVC sometimes. We can do this." Our molds were at that shop for about 3 days, and he calls me. He's like, "You might want to go somewhere else." And and he's like, I'm actually not sure if anybody can make your part out of PVC. So I get researching PVC, and typically PVC is used to make plumbing fittings. If you look at a plumbing fitting, it's really smooth, and it has nice round walls, and nice thick round walls, and they can mold that no problem. Well, if you look at our bond flange, we don't want it to be nice and smooth. We want it to bond a mortar. So the bottom of our flange has the under flange mortar cavities, and it is not conducive to easy molding with PVC because of the geometry of the part.
And I imagine that gives you problems with releasing as well.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the best parts about our product is the under flange mortar cavities, and it also makes it one of the hardest things to actually manufacture. So got back on the phone, called a bunch of more injection molders, and this one guy's like, I've been doing this for a long time. There's never been a job I haven't been able to do. He's like, let us have a shot. I was like, I'm at this point, I have nothing to lose. It's either give this guy a shot, or else go back to the drawing board and completely make the product something different than it is. And he calls me up a couple weeks later. He's like, "Hey, we got these ready for you." I'm like, "Okay, nice. But what's the end? What's the end?
Catch?
You did it, but it was hard. You did it, but this." He's like, "Oh, no, but." He's like, "Just got them done." So I drove up there, still at the Utah company, got up there, and on their conference table was one of our universal bond flange, the square bond flange and PVC, and it looked freaking perfect. And that was probably one of the best wins that I had starting up, was having somebody that could actually make this really challenging part. And it looked great. And I saw that and I was like, okay, I guess we're ready to go then. And that was kind of the big break we had in making the product, was finding them.
Did you have similar issues with doing the ABS as well, or was the ABS a little bit better of a process than doing the PVC?
Oh yeah, and pretty much anybody can mold ABS, and a lot of it comes down to the resin. Like I said, the ABS resin is kind of like hot candle wax, and it just molds really well. It's one of those things where it's kind of like anybody that does injection molding can mold ABS. So that was always easy. We always had a good supply of ABS, but it was the PVC that was hard.
Yeah. How long did this process take from getting to that, from that green one that you showed us, to the point where you were at about 4 months ago?
It was about, so from the green one to having a part to sell was about 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
Wow.
How much money would you say you got invested in it in that time span?
It was my entire life savings.
Oh man.
Plus it was my entire life savings plus any extra money that I could make over that 2.5, 3 years setting tile full time.
Wow.
And in this whole process, were you?
Yeah, that's for real.
So in this whole process, were you still, setting tile and just working normally as usual?
Oh yeah.
Wow,
so I was still setting tile full time. We had a product to sell, and I was still setting tile for 6 or 8 months after the fact. So I'd go run over to the shop on lunch break, get some orders ready, go over in the afternoons, get other orders ready. But I was full-time tile setter, like I said, it's about 6 or 8 months into it. And I got to a point where it was both jobs were suffering. FlowFX was suffering. I wasn't offering the customer service that I wanted to. And obviously tile jobs, they were suffering too. Had pissed off customers and they were mad that I was taking so long. And I just got to a point where I had to choose. And obviously I chose this.
Yeah.
Nice. You can only do something on the side for so long before the side overtakes it.
Yeah. And it's hard because when you're starting a business like this, you need to make sure that it's making money, because especially in the beginning, because my tile company was funding what we were doing in the beginning. So if you give up your tile company, then you're not making any money, not just to pay your own bills, but to pay the other businesses' bills and some of the expenses that come up with that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough.
What was your tile company making at the time?
Revenue?
Yeah.
So
how long were you a tiler for?
So I started tile right out of high school in 2003, and I did tile right up through 2021.
Wow.
So
damn, dude.
Yeah, so I've my tile company, it's varied in size. So I've been anywhere from, I've had 4 setters and 2 helpers at once. That was the biggest we ever were. And at that point, man, it's a lot of babysitting when you have four tile setters under you. My happiest time setting tile was me, another tile setter, and a helper. I think for a small company, that's kind of that's peak performance, because you have two guys with hopefully complementary skills, and then you have a helper that picks up the slack and does a lot of the stuff that you don't want to do, mixing mud, cleaning up, packing in tile, all that stuff. But two tile setters, especially if it's your buddy, which if you're working 40 hours a week with somebody, you're going to be best friends. It's just how it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did post a video like that on my story about scalability and how this plumber started, he had really good work, scaled all the way up, and he was like, I'm tired of putting out fires. I just want to go back to one truck.
Yep.
It's like that, some people like it. It all depends. You're going to find out. And the only way you're going to find out is by doing it. You're going to have to do it and see if it's for you. And then some reach a point where it's like, I can walk away and let the company run itself. And some others are like, I just want to be able to do this on the weekends and call it a day.
Yeah. I definitely made more money when I had more guys, but my happiness and stress level, like I said, the best time was me, another setter, and a helper.
Yeah.
And then the guy that you had as the other setter with you, does he still work with you as far as the FlowFX side?
No. He ended up having an opportunity to manage a tile store, so he left to manage a tile store. And then the last 2 years was me and another. He was a helper, but he graduated to being a tile setter, and it was me and him when we had a part-time helper. But he was a super skilled tile setter too.
Yeah.
And you said you were tiling straight out of high school, out in 2003. And so about how many years of tile experience would you say you had, and how long did it take you before you started your company?
So My tile company.
Yes.
So I started right out of high school in 2003, and I got my contractor's license as soon as I could. So I was 18 out of high school, and I got my contractor's license at 21.
Yeah.
Wow.
See,
Damn.
this kind of like hits a little home for me, and I try to find either people that have been in this situation or people now, because I'm actually 21 myself. Majority of my tile experience is actually in slabs, believe it or not. That's where my start and majority of my experience has been is in slabs. So I kind of started doing my own thing, obviously for financial side of things, and I get to control quality. But I've noticed you don't find a lot of people that are younger, my age, or even people that at one point were my age. They weren't in this situation. So it's kind of unique for me to pick someone's brain that's either been there or is in there currently. So
I'll tell you what. Yeah, I'll tell you what. When you're young, it's really hard to land jobs because they don't have a lot of faith in you.
Yeah. That's why I don't shave the beard.
I was gonna say you have that beard going for you. This is about as good as it gets for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has the age that helps him, and is also
people think I'm 30.
Yeah. I kind of had the benefit of. I played Little League baseball with a kid, and his dad was a sales guy for one of the local flooring stores. And so I kind of had that in, and I subbed for them when I started out. So I kind of had that going for me where they kind of fed me some work. 2008 hit. That was pretty scary. Almost lost my cars and had to file bankruptcy and all that stuff. And the interesting thing about recessions, the people with money are the ones that are spending money. And I lucked out and got in with a builder that was building these. They're like $3 million houses back in 2008. Jeez. And that kind of they would probably be $6 million houses, I would guess. Yeah. We're talking epic Southern Utah views. There's a place in Southern Utah called Snow Canyon. It's a state park. But just imagine the classic Utah Red Rocks, and there's a rim, so a subdivision on the rim, and they're right there on the edge. And we did probably five of those houses, and I was 25, 26 years old. I honestly just kind of lucked into it. I had a friend that had a remodel. His girlfriend's dad was doing a remodel, and he fired his other tile guy, and he got me in there, and I did the shower. He's like, "Man, you do really good work. You should be working." His name's Kerry Blake. He's like, "You should be working for Kerry Blake. You know what? I'm going to call him for you." So we called this builder, and this builder comes over to this guy's remodel, and the guy meets me. He's like, "Oh yeah, give us some bids." So bid a few jobs, and didn't get them. It was like a year later.
That name sounds familiar. Did he do a recent bathroom with a floral design?
So he'd be a builder. He's not on social media at all. I don't think he even has Facebook.
Then it must be somebody else, because they recently did like a single tile by tile floral shower pan with going. That's
probably is that Patrick Casey?
That's the name. Okay.
That guy's incredible. He does some cool stuff.
He said it. I think he did a podcast too, where he was like, "It's nice when you get one job where the customer's like, build me something unique."
Yeah,
go ahead and do it.
Talk about it.
Yeah,
the guy that did like
he's
the
like
special
cool
mountain
experience.
niche.
Oh yeah, yes, exactly that guy. He makes the mountain niche kits, I guess now. You can buy those.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Oh, that all right. Exactly.
You guys have seen it. It's cool. And then he did that shower where it's like a floral and butterflies cut into the 12 by 24 tiles. So it's like almost stamped.
Wow.
To get them that perfect, it was just, I obviously, he said, he's like, "Oh, I was there 5-6 days just on the shower pan alone."
Yeah.
On your knees, single tiling, and hopefully you don't make a mistake. And you take a step back and you're like, damn it, I got to take all these tiles off.
Yeah, I never had time for that.
I haven't had a customer myself where they were like, "I want something like this." The most I do is build my own, niches with different kind of stones, marble. Like I recently did with a blue one with specks in it. I was kind of scared at first. I was like, "This is really blue, like royal blue."
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't know how this is gonna look in your bathroom, but you chose it." but I'm gonna put it in, and then after that, you take a step back and you're like, whoa.
Blue's in though. Like you see cabinets.
Yeah.
Blue's in. I dig it.
I like it. It's like a light. It's like a either navy blue or a light gray blue. Those are the two that I've seen that keep going hand in hand. And every bathroom that I do is those two colors that they go for.
Yep.
Which are nice. They're easy to work with.
Heck yeah.
You know, that was
so I had I wanted to go back on what you're talking about, the material that you guys use on the flange. I know you said it was like a woven material, but I know with the installation that I did, I don't know if it's you per se that runs the FlowFX Instagram page, but like I had somebody message me on the Instagram page and said, hey, you know, when you put the donut on there, because I put it in a Schluter pan. So they said when you put the donut on there, make sure you put an additional, you know, Schluter around it over the actual material of it. So my question is like, is that material not designed to be kind of like a membrane, or is that material designed specifically just for membranes to be able to adhere to it?
So it really comes down to the 2-inch overlap. So the flange is exactly, it's like 2 1/8 inch. So with the Schluter donut, you only get about, it's probably 5/8 of an inch of overlap, and we really want to see a 2-inch overlap, and that's really all that's about.
Okay.
So somebody mentioned earlier about thin set sheet applied membranes wicking. They absolutely do. It's a thing.
I tested
the reason
Yeah.
that you see this, the reason that you see this 2-inch overlap is specifically to absorb some of that wicking. So an assembly will wick a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, you know, just under normal use. So that gives you another 1.5 inches of insurance when you go with a 2-inch overlap. So it would technically work if you had a 1-inch overlap. But to be safe, that's why we like to see the 2-inch overlap.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
with that,
I mean, I took a piece of was a Guru. They sent those little test kits, strips. So I was bored with my kid, and I was like, let's make a cube with staples, and I'm gonna fill it up with water just to do a test. But the next morning, I see water outside, and then I realized it wicked up and over the membrane.
Wow.
It didn't actually leak.
So one thing you should do if you're into testing, so this goes back to our proprietary fabric. Take one of our flanges and actually put it in a bucket of water. So just half of it submerged. The water will actually penetrate our fabric, but it won't wick. And that's a unique thing. So when something can penetrate, it's going to have a better bond, but you don't want it to wick. So it's kind of a unique feature of our fabric.
Huh.
Right. I mean, for your fabric, you need it to penetrate in order to create the bond. But on membranes, you don't want it to penetrate because then they will essentially leak. So that's
So
side of that. That's,
I guess a good practice, and I guess to get your opinion from a tile setter perspective, would you say it'd be good practice to take like a liquid applied membrane and maybe brush it around right where the flange, the membrane meets the flange? Obviously, it's overkill, but just about everybody here likes to build things like a semi could hit it, and it would hurt the semi more than the bathroom. So it's just a question to ask.
You know, honestly, it's really not needed. So like I said, in a typical shower that's being used once or twice a day, you're going to see that water wick in the seams, maybe a 1/2 inch. And it's really not enough to worry about. It's really not.
I mean, most of the, go ahead.
If you do want to build something bulletproof, then yeah, sure. If you put liquid across it, then it's for sure not going to wick. Something that's been trending lately that I've been seeing in the groups is doing sealant on the edge of the seams too.
Yes,
and that's going to be something that's definitely going to stop the wicking as well.
Okay, I think Omar did that on one of his.
I did that on my shower because the bench gives you weird angles. You can't square them, so there's no like proper way to overlap the membrane. So I cut the membrane as best as I could, and then I have the Rockcat, which is Shower Concepts bench, and then you topical waterproof with gauging fabric. So I just put the gauging fabric around the bottom, and then I was like, you know what, the brush is out. What the hell? let's just hit all the way. You know?
Yeah.
I just put all the, I was already here. I just put a bead because the only time I seen the wicking happen is doing flood testing.
Yeah.
When you just regularly hit it with water and then just let it sit, like you said, it'll barely go up a half inch, if that. But when you do the flood test, obviously it's continuous water pressure, and water likes to push things everywhere it goes.
Yeah.
So, but that's the only thing that I saw. And then when I did that cube, I was like, Then I reached out to like Vincent from Guru, and I was like, hey, have you guys seen this happen? Because I was just playing around with my kid, and
Yeah.
I want to make sure this product is good. Because that's the thing too. Like, me and Jeremiah were in a search of like, okay, we need something that's really good with mud and something that's really good with foam pans. We had other foam pans in the industry that he even used, but then they got really expensive. Where for an installer, you can't dish out $1,500 for a kit.
What system was that?
What
system was that?
It was the KBRS basin. That's what I'm familiar with. I think it's a rock solid product. But the price now, when I was exploring them as an option and becoming a dealer, their retail pricing, or what do you say? Their dealer pricing was more expensive than their retail pricing was like a couple months prior. So like everything had raised up, and it's just, I think it was for I guess like I don't think I could say the dealer pricing. Because I think that's something that's you have to be a part of. But I know like the retail one is like $800 for a standard 30 by 60, basin. And I prefer the basins instead of the slopes, because the basins is all one unit, right? It has the flanges built in, and then you put your go board inside. There's like a positive stop for water if I happen to fail on my waterproofing. And it just did not become cost effective for at least me doing, one bathroom a month. If I was doing like 6 bathrooms in a month and I wanted to lay all the pans in one day, then it becomes worth it, for my time to get those pans. But that was me and Omar kind of searching for the best ideal system, which I guess we're happy to report that FlowFX is one of the things that is not changing in that. It's just, it's even like, what warranties work with it.
That's the thing too. I made a video about warranty and like poking fun out of it, because everybody has their own warranty, and I know it's because of product protection, if you want to call it. They don't want to guarantee the other guy's work, but that's also hurting them in the process.
So honestly, I don't know if I should say this or not, but a lot of it's just a lot of it is legitimately marketing. So a good example, let's say there is a manufacturer that makes a shower system, and they can give you a 15-year warranty, but they say, hey, we'll give you a lifetime warranty, but you have to buy all of our stuff. That's I get it. Like it makes sense for them to say, hey, in exchange for buying all of our stuff, we'll extend your warranty to this. Right. So it's kind of a fair trade-off, and I totally understand why they do it.
Right. And it's both playing on people's feelings and the installer's feelings, where it's like, oh yeah, I got a lifetime warranty, when odds are this bathroom is going to last 5 years because they're going to remodel it. Most bathrooms don't pass that anymore.
Yeah.
So the big thing installers don't always understand is what that warranty actually is. A lot of people sell it as, oh, well, your shower has a lifetime warranty. And that's not the case. The products have a lifetime warranty.
Yeah.
So it really is a product warranty. So if your shower fails for whatever reason, it really has to come down to the product failing for the warranty to kick in. And from a manufacturer standpoint, you have to understand, like, hey, our product did what it was supposed to, but this house settled an inch and the shower failed because of that. That's not on us.
Right.
But as a manufacturer, we also have to warranty our products to perform the way that they're supposed to. And so that's really what warranties come into play, is when the product fails. And we've had about 15 warranty claims so far, and they were all on chrome grates. So we had a batch of polished chrome grates, where most of them are fine, but every once in a while the chrome plating comes off, and so we warranty that. But as far as anything else goes, everything's been rock solid. So
Yeah,
and
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure feels
Yeah.
good saying that.
Yeah. And one thing we're kind of kicking around. Oh yeah. One thing we're kind of kicking around is the idea. Now it's not official yet, so don't hold me to it. But one thing we're kicking around is the idea of a universal warranty, where essentially, hey, you did everything that you were supposed to, but you want to use our product, we'll pick up their warranty. If you did everything else the way that you were supposed to, bought all the stuff, did all the things. So we're kind of analyzing the risk on whether or not we can take it, because you have to look at the fact that we're selling an $80 drain, and the other manufacturer would be selling probably $400 or $500 worth of other stuff. So there's a lot more money in the project for them to assume some of the risk and the liability. And we're kind of weighing out whether or not we can. And I think we can, because you look at the statistics of product failures. It's not, these products aren't 99.99% effective. They're more like 99.99999% effective. If you think about 99.99%, that means you're having a failure one out of 1,000, and that is way too many failures. If you're having 1 out of 1,000 products fail, that's way too many. One out of 10,000, that's too many too. When you get into the range where you have a product failure 1 out of 50, 1 out of 100,000, that's kind of where you want to be.
Yeah. So I guess to get a rough idea, how many units are you guys, are you like pushing through and like selling to customers? Because that kind of correlates to how many bathrooms are going to either have been installed or going to be installed. Because I know you sell the 10-pack.
I'm not sure if I want to share that, but let's say that it's multiple 10,000s.
Multiple 10,000s. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you're moving pretty quick, because like for me, it's funny. I was talking with Omar. I was like, all right, I'm going to get the FlowFX drain. I was like, I got enough information. I know Omar pretty well. And I tend to take, I'll change things and change my ways if there's someone that I kind of know and that I trust. Can say, okay, this works. This is what it is. Like video me when he installed it. I mean, all these different types of stuff. I'm like, okay, I've been looking at this thing for a while now, all the way from when the towel coach did the video. And I was like, I'm going to get it. So I went to do the order online. And then 2 days later, Best Tile emails me, say, hey, we got FlowFX in stock now.
Yeah. So that was just in the past couple of weeks then.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's huge. Because I have a Best Tile too by my area. And it's, like I said, this is pretty much like where I go. And that's also why I got away from KVRS too, because I asked them, I was like, do you guys offer other drains other than OD? Because the problem with the OD drain was if you screw it in too low, it wasn't square. And when you squared it, it was too high. So I could never get it to the right measurement, or like the screws would be where I don't want them. I don't want the screws on the side. I want the screws this way. So I said, what would it be to do the drain? And they're like, well, it's supposed another additional fee for putting the FlowFX drain in there.
And
that's when I was like, okay, right. And it's a 3 extra week wait versus Shower Concepts. I spoke to, I forget the name of the owner.
Dave?
Yeah, I spoke to Dave direct from him. He's answered a lot of questions. I actually ran into an issue that was my mistake, but he was able to like walk with me, and I basically ripped out a membrane the next day. It wasn't fully dry because the pan won't let it dry. It takes about a day or two, I guess, to fully cure. And so I was able to do that because I had air pockets, but that was just my part of the installation. But he was real cool about it. He's like, well, what are we learning today? As soon as he answered the call, what are we learning today? I was like, well, and he was like, listen, thankful for calling. And he was thankful for calling. He's like, because most installers, he's like, I don't find installers that call and ask these questions. They just slap it in and hope for the best. Me, on the other hand, I like to ask all the dumb questions. I want to look as dumb as I can so that I don't have to rip these things out. Jeremiah could say, I'm very OCD. I'll go into some really heavy rabbit holes on the internet trying to find systems. And we've narrowed it down to FlowFX. Who is, I guess, it's a great product if you can't negate it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the membrane that, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of the cool features about the drain too is the ability to kind of adjust what you want to do with the shims. You know how he was talking about having to twist or spin the drain into it. You're not really going to get it square. So one of the things that I thought about when I was installing it, I was like, okay, well, what if I put these shims in here and I put this shim in here and it's just barely too high, or I put this one in there and it sits a little bit too low and you can't find the right medium, but there was never that issue with it. It was so easy for the installation process to be able to just find the right spot for the drain to be in.
Same with their screw-on ones, especially if it was a square screw-on one.
Oh yeah,
because that was my thing. I'm used to the Ebby drains, and when I saw the flow, I'm like, it's like an Ebby drain, but so much better. Like, it kind of gives like the shape of it kind of has like a similar feel to it.
Yeah.
But it, you know, when you start looking into all the modularities of it, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like, I don't care if I got to pay 3 times as much at this point. Like the fact that it saves you such a big headache. And a lot of getting ready to punch a wall when things aren't working out, especially when you're OCD. Like just about everybody in here is kind of like that, where it's like it doesn't bother. Like we'll do something that takes a lot longer if it means it looks right. Like it's going to be annoying, but it's going to haunt us at night.
And that's the cool thing about that drain is when I set the drain on. I did a dry pack. That was my first dry pack, I should say, without. My dad was always there to watch me, but that was my first solo. And I was like, man, how does this thing gonna bond to this? I didn't put screws into it. I was like, I'm just gonna set it. I did the thing. The next day, I'm pushing the pipe to glue it, and I couldn't move that thing. I was like, Jesus, this thing really
nice.
There's no screws on it. I was like, wow, I didn't even need screws. It bonded to the cement so hard that I couldn't push it out, which is great. I mean, whatever the design on the honeycomb under is great.
Yeah. You know, it was one of those things that I really just wanted to make something that I wanted to install myself. So pretty much anything I do, I just make stuff for myself, and I hope other people like it. Like my t-shirts, my hats, like whatever I make, I just make it for myself, and then hopefully other people like it. I figure I'm literally the target demographic. You know, I've been a tile guy my whole life. I'm that age. I don't know. That's kind of how I look at things. I'm not going to sell anything or make anything unless I'd want to actually install it myself.
Absolutely.
So I know recently.
Go
ahead, Omar. Go ahead, Omar. Sorry.
No, I was saying that's the concept of that I've been showing these guys since I started my business. Was like when you start thinking that way, things click. Versus going the opposite of the grain. So if you do something that you like, that you're enjoying it, somehow everything else just literally falls into place. Versus when you were forcing, like, I want finance, I want, levels, I want this, and it was just fight the whole way. You just to find out that it's like, just be selfish, just do it for yourself, and if somebody happens to like it, hey.
Yep. And that goes with tile installation too. I mean, obviously, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and there's 1,000 ways to tile a shower or a tile job, and everybody has their own way to do it. And really, you need to find your way that you like to do it, because you have to do the job and you have to enjoy what you do. So just pick a system, pick products that you enjoy. And that's what I recommend. Whether it's our product, I would hope it's our products. But if it's not, just use the stuff that you like to use and that you enjoy to use, because you have to do it.
Now,
so I know recently you guys. Sorry, Omar. I know recently you guys had just come out with a new drain grate, which actually looks really awesome. But is there anything as far as other accessories or anything like that are coming to the future for FlowFX? Yep.
The big thing we have coming is a whole sheet membrane system. So we have.
Oh wow.
That's going to be coming super quick, probably 4 to 6 weeks. We finalized the print plate today, so we have the design made.
That's awesome.
So we'll have. It's blue. It's like a light blue. It's one of the thinner membranes on the market. We could have went thicker, but from an installation standpoint, I would rather install something that's thinner, less overlap, less buildup on the overlap, all that. So we'll have a 39-inch wide roll. We'll have a 78-inch wide roll that'll be available. That'll be great. That'll be great for shower pans and stuff. We'll probably sell that we'll obviously have it by the roll, but we'll probably sell it by the foot as well for people that just want it for one project.
Yeah, I'd be curious to try that. That's interesting.
That's going to be my next testing phase then.
Yeah. Yep. Inside corners, outside corners, banding, all that stuff. I do have a linear drain that's. I've got some concepts. I've prototyped it a little bit. I'm struggling with a couple little details. I think what I have right now is something that you could definitely install, but I want something to be badass before I put it out. There's a couple little details that I don't love, so I'm just kind of trying to work out some solutions on those.
And that's really cool to hear that you guys are working on a linear drain as well, because I was just discussing your system to a contractor just recently, and he was like, well, what do they do any linear drains? And I was like, as far as I know right now, they don't have any kind of linear drains, but I imagine, being in that field, you'd have something in the works.
Yeah. There's definitely something that we could just bring in. There's products that we could bring in right now and just private label. But like I said, I want something that's going to be super user-friendly, something I would want to install myself. What we're looking at is something that's site customizable. So you can show up and have a wall-to-wall linear drain every time. I think that's pretty key to the look, to actually have a wall-to-wall. And not only that, you save some of the funky angles and cuts that you have to do when you're like 3 inches short. Yeah. So wall to wall is pretty important.
That's not something that's going to be customizable in the field, is it?
Yeah. So something that's customizable in the field.
Wow.
I can't talk a whole lot about it, but I will say that when you assemble it, it's going to feel rock solid compared to some of the other site customizable drains that you'll see on the market. Right. You'll feel confident installing it. That's important. Yeah, especially with a drain that you're customizing in the field. You have to have confidence in it.
Keep a prototype for the 100th episode when we have you back on, man.
Yeah.
100th episode.
Right now. Right now they're 3D printed prototypes, but they'll be made out of a different material.
Okay.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I mean that's the huge thing with that. It's like I was gonna ask that about the membrane because of the woven fabric. I was like, I'm sure they're gonna do a membrane. And again, I'm constantly, the difference with me and Jeremiah, that we're always looking for what's the product that fits, like you said, easier to install, won't give you so much trouble overlapping, having to deal with it, or warranties too. That's another thing, because they're like, oh, we won't warranty this, that. I'm like, all right, listen, it's on me if something happens, okay? So at the end of the day, it really is like that, because there's 100 different ways you can get out of a warranty. But having that would be great, because like I said, I'll definitely be testing that out, and I'm booking out as we speak. So it's worth it.
So one thing we're saying, we're a drain company first. We'll have this membrane coming out. It's kind of going to be just something else that we offer, but we're still our primary focus will still be drains. And we realize that there's a lot of other products that guys like to use, liquids, different fabrics, whatever. And that's kind of why we're kicking the idea around of working out the details of the universal warranty, because we want to back you guys. We want to back our customers to use our products. We don't want them to feel like, oh, well, I'm using them, but I'm giving up my warranty because I'm using this other thing. So we're trying to come up with a way to back you guys. Yeah. So we're trying to come up with a way that we can back you guys and still have you use the pieces that you like to use. So if you look at our logo, it's got the 3 colors. That's not a mistake. That's not a mistake. It actually represents the multiple waterproofing membranes that our products work with. And that's kind of that's the root of what we do. And that'll be something that is always a part of what we do. Even though we'll have our own membranes and stuff, we're still going to advocate installers using what they like to use.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And we may break it down into, you know, maybe not every single waterproofing, but there's some manufacturers that make great products that have excellent quality control, and we have faith in their systems that they're going to put out good quality products. Because, you know, like we talked about earlier, warranties really are product warranties. You're warranting that your product is going to perform the way that it's supposed to. And a lot of these manufacturers, they make great stuff. So
see, and me and Omar have kind of scoured your website before. While we get, like I said, we get into this thing. It's like, all right, let's try to optimize our system, right? There's always something coming out. Let's make it better, more efficient, hopefully better quality. And then, you know, the biggest problem we were running into is we have a sheet membrane that we like, but their warranty doesn't extend to y'all. And it's just like, well, it's like, we really don't like their drains and their grates, right? It's kind of a pain to work with. But FlowFX has such a nice system. Well, let's see what they back. And unfortunately, it's getting to the point where they could potentially lose out on a shower system, even if the new, like a system that you warranty costs more. It's the fact that it's all intertwined and you can back it up. So, you know, we've gone through that. I mean, even I scoured through, I saw like the, I don't know if purple is my thing for my company. So I saw the dragon scale, whatever, and it's all purple membrane, and I'll be all over that. But
what is that? Sienna?
Yeah, Sienna. That's what it is.
Yeah. I think those guys are out of California.
Okay, but yeah, it's just that's the biggest thing is, you know, you have such a good product, and the fact that you can stand behind a warranty, and then you can stand behind other products. Say, hey, you know, we're compatible and essentially warranty, and we've kind of, I'm assuming you screen them. You know, we stand behind these people, and it's just like, well, we know the quality. And, you know, the name and status behind FlowFX, right? And they're going, okay, well, we recommend these people. It's like, some of them I've never heard, but if a company like you with a reputation like you have is standing behind them, now they've got a lot more, you know, value. So you know, it's worth exploring.
And hopefully that goes both ways. So we recently, I guess it's not about a year ago, we had a shop they have 60 installers, and they were using a certain system, and they wanted to use our drains. That certain system said, oh yeah, you won't get a warranty anymore. Well, Latacrete has been one of the best manufacturers to work with. They've been the one that's kind of stood up vocally and said, oh yeah, we'll warranty our stuff, and our warranty stops where our product stops. If you want to use FlowFX, go ahead. They warranty their stuff, we warranty our stuff, and everybody's happy. And because of that, this shop actually switched over from another well-known system to using Latacrete stuff, just because they would honor their warranty and they could use our drain, and it was a mutually beneficial deal. So it was great for us. It was great for Latacrete, and hopefully that trend kind of continues. You know, like I said, we're a drain company first. That's kind of what we focus on. But yeah, we're working on some of the warranty stuff with some of the other guys, like on our end, and hopefully it's reciprocated.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, look forward to it, man.
RSS is one of the companies that I've seen. I think they're fairly new too, because they're, you know, the Instagram, you know, engaged about Instagram and the influencers. Like, how many people have got a piece of it? And it's like, they're fairly new. I seen Tile Coach has them, and I noticed that their pans are cut exactly to fit the FlowFX with no spaces.
Slop.
So that was one of the things that's attracting me to those pans, because it's like, all right, so I can plop this thing in. There'll be no have to fill in voids, nothing. And they're very slow, I guess, at responding. So I'm waiting for the response on that, because I was like, well, I need to know all the pricing to compare to other things, because, you know, if it's going to be a good system and they warranty everything, then perfect. That works for us. We can bang it out like that. And, you know, then obviously our Instagram basically shows everybody else that, like, okay, he's installing that. Why is he using that system? And we'll explain it. Like, this is why we like the system. It's not because they're sponsoring me. You know, I'm not one of those guys. I was like, I'll do it because it's good, it's working. It's not, like you said, it's not making me miserable while I'm using it. And that's the best part, because otherwise I quit.
And it's also, you know, the people behind the brand.
Right, exactly. And having somebody to talk to, like, I called, I forget who's the tech guy for FlowFX. Is there a guy?
I'm the tech guy. Yeah.
I was you that I talked to, so yeah, it was cool. He's like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. You probably heard my questions. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. The bonding will work. And I was like, all right, but
Yeah.
thinset, it's like thinset.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
modified thinset. It's not regular, and it's a whole. I have to go and teach myself what modified thinsets are and how they work, which essentially are waterproof by nature in the whole, like how much they allow water through. That's when
Well,
I
it's a
started to
habit.
understand how it works.
It's a habit and a standard, though. It's just like, you can't change your ways. I remember telling the guy that taught me tile, I'm best friends with him, and I tell him about a bonding plan. He's like, ain't no way in hell I'm using that thing. But he's still stuck on like vinyl liners and everything. And I'm like, I hate vinyl liners, man. The buildup, I have not touched vinyl since I left the company I used to work for. Like it's all sheet applied now. There's no water, the moisture that gets any part of the mud bed. It sits on top, it goes in, problem solved, right? So,
Yep.
He's not with the new systems.
It's usually one of those things where they just need to do it once, and then once they do it one time, they're kind of switched over.
Yeah, and that's essentially how it was for me. Like I said, I just recently used one of your FlowFX strains, and after I was talking with Omar about it, he's like, "How'd it go? How'd it go?" I was like, "Man, that was such a breeze. It was awesome. Like everything was smooth with it. I mean, that's the only one I'm going to be using from now on for sure."
Yep. For me, the big thing with bonded membranes, my personal biggest selling point, it's not even the drain. The drain's cool, but it's the curb detail. So how easy it is to waterproof a curb with a bonded membrane compared to a pan liner, to do a pan liner right over a curb. Yeah. It's a skill. You got to wrap lath, you got to float mud an inch thick over the whole thing, or it's tough. Whereas, or you see guys that do backer board and put screws through it and then red guard over the backer board. But man, the curb detail for me, that was the selling point on why to go to a surface applied membrane.
Yeah, I mean that's like also with the foam curves, like I've been looking at all of them, and then Shower Concepts send theirs cut in half for shipping purposes, and I was like, how is this gonna work? And the last shower that I did, I used them, and once you glue it, that thing is rock solid all the way across. So I was like, oh.
Yep.
Okay.
One trick if you're in a bind, you can always thin set bricks together for a curb.
Yeah.
I've known lots of showers out of bricks.
Really?
The guy that taught me tile, he's like, it took him to go to one of the training events to see how strong foam boards really are. And I'm pretty sure you know what brand I'm talking about that make these really thick benches. And he just wasn't having it. He's like, nope, no foam on the floor. Foam on the wall, okay, but no foam on the floor. And to be fair, I'm kind of the same way. He's maybe rubbed off on me. I don't like foam pans on the floor. And Omar can attest to this. He's like, I'll do this. I was like, I'm doing a mud bed. I don't care. I want it to be concrete. I want to fall, and it hurt when I hit it. So,
yeah, man, I like to build showers all sorts of ways. Foam is super easy, but I just kind of like packing a mud shower pan. It's something I just enjoy doing. But there's no denying that if you have a preformed tray that's the right size, and you can just come in and thin set it down, you're definitely having a nicer day, not packing it, mixing it and all the stuff.
That's what I love about the KBRS.
I'm thinking the same thing. I've never done a mud bed before, so I'm thinking the same thing as you guys are saying all this. I'm like, man, I am all good with a foam pan.
Yeah.
But I have the least filing experience here, so
foam pans have their own, I guess, not issues but limits too, because if the floor is out of whack, mud is king. You can just mud the pan level. So that's what I was like, okay, so mud makes sense on certain installations, but like if you're on a second or third floor of a house and the floor is kind of questionable, it's like without me having to re-brace this entire house, maybe I can throw a foam pan. Because if I add 5-6 bags of floor mud, things might start getting questionable.
So, well, that's how that installation was for me.
Yeah, that one.
Oh yeah, because you had
I recently had one where I had to go and demo out a mud bed, and after I got everything out, both ends of the shower were completely bowed from it was being on the second floor right above their kitchen, and I had to go back up through the bottom of the house and go in there and put support bracing in there because the weight of the mud bed was just bowing the floor out.
Wow. You should have seen some of the benches we used to build out of block and concrete and rocks from the yard.
Oh, God,
I just recently watched somebody do a bench out of block.
Yeah,
I seen those. Oh my God, you bring it in cinder blocks into a bathroom and start having to chip it to make a corner, and then you gotta float them. I mean, like I said, that's also an art, like having to float walls. And I've seen plenty of videos on it. And I was like, I can see myself liking it and then slightly hating it right after, just because my body's gonna be like, this is not natural.
Yeah. Did you guys see the mud competition between Joe Lima and Tile Coach? Okay, so I went out and helped Tile Coach, and that dude is a beast. Like his floating skills are legit. Like, yeah, it was.
I was actually just listening to the podcast he was on talking about that, and I think it was the Tile Money podcast. I was listening to him discuss that whole situation. He's like, yeah, people didn't think that I knew how to do these things, and he's like, yeah, I'm actually really good at it. Really good. Like legitimately, as far as the race goes, he straight up won the race, and he lost because one of his screeds was like an 1/8 inch out of level. But when you're in a race and you're throwing a level up on the wall, like I threw up a level, I was like, man, I would be happy with that on my job. It definitely it legit was an 1/8 inch out for sure. But like you're looking at it, you're like, man, it's well within the lines. Yeah, it's not perfectly in the lines, but it was pretty damn good. Joe Lima had the advantage of having like a really big folding square. So he put the square up and he could instantly see. So it was a square that when you put it up, you could see, because on one wall it was like a 16th one way, and then on the other wall it was like an 1/8 the other way. So at the very top, it was probably like a 1/2 inch out of square. But on an actual tile job, nobody would ever notice that. Like that float job, it was acceptable to tile on all day, every day. The only time that it might not be is if you had an intricate pattern on the ceiling and you would see the pattern run off by a 1/2 inch. But other than that, in a day-to-day job, oh yeah, it was money.
Yeah, no, that was a good competition. I watched the whole thing, and it was just, like I said, doing one of those on a regular seems complicated enough. Doing it under a time constraint and getting it, because you do your scratch first, and then you got to go back and then float. But to scratch and float the same day and do a final product shows you that you can do one day, all within all within an 1/8 inch. And I mean, it's demanding on the body. It really is. Like the competition didn't do justice on that. Like it's demanding having to put your arm up every second with cement and continuously keep doing it. It hurts.
Not to mention it's a messy process. Even if you're good at it, it's still messy. Now, like I'm a messy grouter. If I'm grouting the wall, I'm grouting the floor too. Like that's just how I'm grouting. Like whatever's up here, if the same grout's on the floor, I kind of smudge it in place and go back to the wall. But it's messy.
Yeah, those guys floated those 2 walls in 30 minutes. It for sure would have taken me 4 or 5 hours if I did it. But just to see just how pumped up their arms were, they were working their asses off.
Crazy. And I know they're going to have another one too, right? I think they're doing another model like that.
I don't know. I don't know. That'd be cool if they did. Yeah. I wouldn't want to do it. I'd get my ass
rematch.
Nah, you got to bring in new faces.
I could probably hang with some dudes packing a shower pan. I'm pretty good at that, but walls, no way. I just didn't do enough of it.
Yeah.
No, that's just like anything else. It's a skill, repetition. You start to learn, and then eventually it's like you'll know as soon as you see it. You're like, all right, yeah, I need a little bit here without even having to throw a level on it, just by looking at it. Like I'm a plumber by trade, and like I'll go to jobs like, yeah, that piece of pipe's 3 inches long. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, I've seen, I've done enough of this work. Trust me, it's that size. I promise you.
Just like most tile guys can walk in and be like, oh, that tile's a 1/2 inch out of level. Like, how do you see a 1/2 inch? I don't know. It's 1/2 inch out. Put a level on it.
That's a curve right there, man. And you go into public places and you're like, what kind of 3-fingered monkey did this.
Yep. Yep. I feel really bad for our significant others that have to deal with us and going any public place.
My mom.
Yeah, I was at the doctor's office. Oh man, I was at the doctor's office, recorded the lines on the time. I'm like, this is not bad. But then we went into the room, and I was like, ooh, what's going on in here?
Yep.
Me and my mom were at Chick-fil-A. I'm just sitting there staring out the wall. She's like, "Stop working." I'm like, "But it looks bad. It's so bad."
Well, I just recorded the backsplash in the Planet Fitness the other day, and I posted it to my story. I'm like, man, Planet Fitness, you guys need some new grouters, man.
Bathroom, I think remodel teacher or one of those guys. He posted. They did a subway on a wall, but they put lights right under it. You're gonna see any lippage.
Yeah.
As soon as you turn that thing in, it's like,
oh my god,
like a mosaic piece at that point. Yeah, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's like you look at it, you're like, wow, okay.
And the thing is, when you're installing it, especially commercial, like it's totally acceptable. You think you're doing a good job, and they throw the light across it.
See,
you have no chance.
It's not.
That's something I've gone into the habit to, and I've got a video of it. And this mainly comes from the slab experience, my slab experience, because you want everything perfect. And what I do is I take my laser level and I put it on the edge of the tile on the wall, and I literally split the beam between the tile and everything to the point where you can see a slight red haze across the entire wall. And you can take your finger and at any point touch the tile, and the tip of your finger will glow red. And you can zigzag. If it goes away, or if you see the laser hit, further up your finger, you know that something's not right. So you can smush it in, or pop it out, put a little more thin set and slap it back in. And to me, like, there's a satisfaction with that. You're like, yeah, I'm the shit, because you run your whole finger through it, and it's like you see that red line across the entire wall, and you're like,
Yep.
So that's what I do for that, because like I said, that lippage, especially with light, it shows, man. It sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yep. So I do something similar when I'm packing shower pans. So I set a laser 3.5 inches higher than I want the final mud to be. And then I take a 2x4 and I smack with a hammer, beat the mud down to that laser line. And you have a perfectly level perimeter that's actually hard packed on the perimeter, and it gives you something to screed off of.
Yes.
So I've seen the lasers a lot, and guys are setting right on the flange. Well, the problem is most of your mud is going to break the laser beam. So if you set it 3.5 inches higher, you can set the perimeter first, and then you can overpack the shower pan and then scrape off what you don't need.
See, that's a good tip, because that's what I do. I put the laser right where I want the mud bed to be. I didn't even think about, like, I use my levels for just about everything. I've got nice levels and I've got levels to beat up. So my levels to beat up I use for screeding and everything. And that's actually fairly smart. Just put it above that point, because there's been a couple times I'm like, well, where's my laser? And there's a pile of mud there. And I'm like, okay, I got to scrape that over and double check. But as far as the perimeter thing goes, that's actually how I was taught to do. It's like, just do all the outside, pack it down super hard, pack it down super hard right around the drain, fill it up and pack in between. You're good.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So like I said, if you move the laser 3.5 inches high, then the mud that you have in your shower pan's never in the way. And then also you're beating the shit out of a 2x4 instead of your nice level. And then an L screed set is honestly one of the best tools that you can have too if you're doing mud shower pans. It just has a sharper edge than a level, so you're going to cut the mud better. But more importantly, you have 6 sizes. So on one wall, you might be using 3 straight edges, because you have the short distance from the drain to the curb, and then you have the mid distance, then you have it in the corner. So by having 3 different straight edges, you can get a little more accurate with it. So that's one of my favorite tools for packing mud that a lot of guys don't have. It's just a L screed set.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Good to know.
Omar, your mic's muted.
So that's why I bought.
So what do you do now, since you don't do so much tile work? What do you do when you're not kind of doing FlowFX work?
So FlowFX is still it's more than a full-time job. So I do a lot of tech support. So if you call FlowFX's phone number, it's actually my cell number. And I like that. I like that because I'm available, and and it's just nice. There's a lot of guys that they'll call and I answer, and they're like, "Whoa, I didn't expect someone to answer the phone." They're like, "Wait, did you say your name was Chase? Are you like the FlowFX guy?" I didn't expect you to answer the phone. I'm like, "Well, I know all the answers, so you might as well just call me."
There you go.
So I do a lot of tech support. And then product development is kind of the big thing that I'm working on. There's always stuff to do. I recently promoted my little sister to order fulfillment. So pretty much any package you get from FlowFX is shipped by my little sister, and she really stepped up, and she's been killing it.
Heck yeah.
Prior to her, we'd ship like 3 times a week, and now we ship every single day. If you order during the middle, like in the afternoon, you're probably going to get tracking notification within 30 minutes. Mondays are a little slower because she has all of Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays orders. But then Monday afternoon, you'll probably get tracking notification in 30 minutes or so.
Okay, so order Monday afternoon.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Like I said, I've been been in the tile business my whole life, and if you order something online, it's because you need it. People are not ordering stuff a month in advance. It's usually, oh, hey, I'm starting this job next week, I better get that ordered. So we know how important it is to get stuff out. So if you order something, we're going to ship it same day.
See, that's good to know, because I'm in the thought process where it's like, I want to have things on stock, right? Like I ordered a 10-pack because it's just like, I do bathrooms. I love doing bathrooms. I know I'm going to use 2. I'm potentially going to use 5. It's like, I might as well buy the whole pack, right? And just keep it in stock. And then of course, Best Tiles like everywhere around me, so I can just run in anytime and grab it. Although they don't have the 10-pack just yet. So. Yeah.
So the 10-pack is one of those things. It's actually our way of giving a contractor discount.
Yes.
So the 10-pack is 15% off. It's something we don't actually offer through dealers. You can only do it through us.
Okay.
Through the website. That may change, but for now it's one of those things where we package it differently. So you notice it's probably just bulk packaging, doesn't have the retail box, all that. Yeah, and most of our retailers are really good, but I think you might get some that might buy 10 packs just to get a better deal and then send it out without the instructions. Yeah. So it's just one of those things to kind of prevent that. But
no,
I don't know. We'll see.
How many hats would you say you're wearing right now besides the owner and tech guy?
Okay, so I have started to outsource some of the stuff. So having my little sister do order fulfillment has been like the biggest thing. I do have somebody that runs our Instagram page. You probably know OBF Tile. So Oscar.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So Oscar is kind of the behind the scenes. This is our first time ever telling anyone that, by the way. He runs our Instagram page. He's freaking awesome. He does a way better job at it than I ever could have. He's really good at reposting content, replying to DMs, but most importantly, he's super knowledgeable, bilingual. So he's just good at just handling the DMs and stuff.
Yeah. So, nice.
Yep.
The language thing is huge because
absolutely,
especially in my area here in the Northeast, there's a lot of Spanish people and Portuguese people, and they don't go through these systems or don't buy these systems because they really don't have anywhere to they don't even have YouTube videos on it. Like maybe Misha is probably the closest you get to like somebody that's trying to do the Spanish thing and tile coach I've seen, but no Portuguese, because most of the tile installers are either Portuguese, Spanish, most of our Italians. So that limits them to Italians will stick to the European stuff. You'll see them just literally just levitate to that stuff because obviously they know it, they can understand it. So that was another thing that I've been thinking about in my head. I'm to explain these videos in other languages too, in Spanish. And when I'm at the supply house and they see me with the logo or a sticker and they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Well, it's this." And they're like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "It's a drain." He's like, "Well, I've never seen it." And I was like, "Yeah." you know, then the Instagram only reaches certain people that are, you know, in that world.
Yep.
But there is still that other side of the world of installers that don't even know this thing exists. They're still doing, you know, Durarock, still doing RedGuard. And I explain these things to them at Home Depot, and they're like, I can do that? I'm like, and it's that much easier? I'm like, yeah.
It's amazing how much of the industry isn't knowledgeable. It's estimated that it's around 10 or 20% is connected in social media, whether it's Facebook groups or Instagram. So you're looking at 80 to 90% that are not.
Right.
So
wow,
80 to 90% of the tile guys in your area probably are not on Instagram. They're probably not on Facebook. They probably don't get on YouTube.
I was just telling Donnie that the other day, man. The other day when Donnie was here, I was telling him about guys that I used to have do tile work for me. And one of them actually had to go move back to his country to take care of his dad for a little while. But I was telling him, like, man, these guys, they don't even know anything about foam pans, man. These guys, they don't use leveling clips and things like that, man. They're just old school, and they do good work. But, man, could you imagine if we, like, started teaching these guys how to use foam pans, how much more work they can, like, turn around and things like that? And that just kind of goes back to what you mentioned about the bilingual thing, too, man, because these guys are all Salvadorian, Mexican, and things like that. And I told Donnie, I'm like, man, you have to brush up on your Spanish, bro.
Yeah.
And a big thing with the new system is the wear and tear. And we've talked about this pretty religiously, is that's one of the biggest things with our industry is you tear up your body super quick. You know, I'm young. Absolutely. Fortunately, the guy that taught me, he's damaged his body doing this stuff. So, like, I go walk in, he's like, knee pads. I was like, they're in the truck. He's like, I wasn't asking you. Go get your knee pads. You know, look at this, look at that. You know, Omar recently got to use like the Latacrete, the Multimax Light, which is super awesome. The foam pans are lightweight. You know, everything, you know, even if it costs a little bit more in the long run, it'll cost you less, right? So we're trying to get into the habit of you can upgrade your systems to that are one, either better, or two, they work just as good, but they, you know, they're lighter, like foam backer boards. I don't ever touch any concrete backer boards now, like I do on coupling membranes on the floor. I very rarely use Durock. We use foam boards. I've almost exclusively switched over to Multimax and Tri-Light for a lot of my stuff, unless the tile requires, you know, a different type of thin set. So, you know, on coupling membranes, everything is so much lighter, and it's a big difference. You know, hauling couple, you know, like 10 bags of the 50-pound thin set there's a big difference between doing that and then picking up the Multimax. You pick up 2 bags with one hand and grab like a stack of Go board and run up the steps, you know. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, not only that, just cutting foam boards.
Oh yeah, right in the bathroom.
So much easier, man. Yeah, man, absolutely.
Have you guys had any kind of testing as far as what thin sets work best to bond to your flange?
So essentially
essentially
our flange is really just a substrate to bond to. So we typically want you to follow the manufacturer instructions for the membranes that you're using. So as we're coming out with our own membrane, we'll have some suggestions. But realistically, any good modified thin set's going to be great.
Yeah.
Nice. Good to know.
Okay. So
the biggest thing with membranes though is you want it to be wet enough that you're going to get good transfer. That's the biggest thing. If you're getting good transfer, you're good to go. If you pull it back, it doesn't have transfer, then that's when you're going to have issues.
So I'm kind of running through my list here, and I'm just going to bring it up because me and Omar kind of talked about it and do it as a courtesy. But have you ever considered doing like a hair catch for the FlowFX drains? Because we found some that are compatible, and we put them in because we think hair catches are a really good thing to add. I was just curious if that's something you ever considered.
Yeah, so I get this question quite a bit. My official answer on this, I'm pretty adamant about this. The FlowFX drain it's designed to be maintenance free, and the only time that you should put a hair catcher in is if you have a known issue in the system. So if you have a septic tank and you have a heavy shedder, that might be a good time to put in a hair catcher. If it's an older home that's had clogging issues in the past, might be a good time to put in a hair catcher. Other than that, just let it be maintenance free. I would rather have the customer have a good tile shower experience, and cleaning out a hair catcher every 3 or 4 weeks, to me, is not a good experience. Just let it go down out the drain and not worry about it.
Makes sense. The only, like I said, the only thing from a plumber's perspective is girls and showers. A lot of hair.
Yep.
That's the only. I've pulled out rats before, so it's like what the
hey man, I got hair too, man. What you mean, just girls?
Yeah. So to answer your question though, I personally don't like a hair catcher. I wouldn't put a hair catcher in my own house. But there's enough demand for it. We'll probably make one and offer it as an accessory.
Okay.
That's good.
If there's money to be made, make it.
Yeah. So there are some things that they're not worth making money off of. You're better off just kind of offering them as a courtesy. Like for instance, new product that we're about to come out with is just this marking template. So so as you're marking the great carrier, you get a bunch of squiggles. You get a bunch of squiggles, and it's kind of hard to mark. So this is something. It's just a 3D printed template that's the exact size, and this is something that costs us like $1.50 to print, to 3D print this, and it'll be something that we probably sell for $3. So if you think about it, if we sell 100 of these, we're going to make $150, and it's going to be like 10 days worth of 3D printing to make those. So some things are just not worth making money off of. It's also something that it is a piece of plastic. We could definitely just include it like we do the temporary install plate. But if we assign a dollar value to it, like $3, people are going to be more likely to put it in their toolbox and keep it and save it. So
not want to lose that.
That was actually going to be one of my questions, because when I was installing it, I was running the pencil and I was like trying to figure out, because otherwise now you're either cutting too much or you're cutting too little. And so that was going to be one of my questions too. But now with a template, it's so much nicer because you end up. Hi. Say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Let Daddy finish. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's a really brilliant idea too, is having that template, because that's definitely something that I would keep. I mean, I even kept, the little green piece for future times if I ever needed it for something else, So, I saw that when you just put that up on the screen there, it's like the same issue that I had as Omar is, tracing that thing out. It's like it was all rigid around the edge.
Which is, I like it. It helps with the grout going in there. When you're grouting it, that's actually good. But when you're trying to cut the tile, you try to figure out and sit there and play with it. But that template would be great. Something, make it sturdy enough where, like you said, even if you put a value to it, somebody would just, like me, I would keep it in stock inside my cutting tools.
Yep. So it'll probably be like $3. So that definitely not a moneymaker. The other thing, so we're coming out with waterproof membranes. The corners, we're going to have a very low margin on those, just as kind of a value add.
That's cool.
Yep. So like I said, there are some things that they're intangible value to it, where it's better for us to sell it for less money, to put it in your hands and make it the experience better for you. And I think waterproof corners are one of those things.
It is.
And especially, a big part of that is obviously one of our big competitors includes those things with their drain kit. So by going with FlowFX, you're no longer getting inside corners, outside corners, etc. So when we add those back in, we still want to be competitive to the final price of competitors.
Right. That definitely helps. And I look forward to it. Like I said, I keep testing each membrane's RSS. I reached out to them. Hopefully they'll answer my questions at some point.
Cornell's a cool dude. I'm surprised he hasn't got back to you.
Yeah, he sent me a couple messages, and I was like, listen, because I was asking him about the pan, and like when I asked you about the drain, I just want to pick their brains and ask questions like, okay, this is how does it work? I seen the tile coach use it. I haven't held it, so I can't compare it to what I use right now. You know, I've ripped Schluter Curdy membrane on Home Depot. You can rip it with your hands. I don't know if I want to put that on a wall. So that's kind of why I haven't gone that route. Guru is the thickest one I've dealt with, but then, like you said, the overlapping issue. You can't build a niche with that. It'll just get so thick on you where I end up using Go Board exclusively because I can build the niches, customize it to whatever size I want on the field. So, you know, most guys try to figure out, okay, I'm going to have this much tile. This is where I need to build my niche versus me tiling up to the niche and then cutting it in place and doing it. So,
don't throw shade, Omar. Don't throw shade.
So I expect most guys to be using foam board on the walls, a sheet membrane on the pans, 4 inches up.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I'm expecting to see.
Yeah, I believe that's slowly becoming the new standard. And trying to explain that to some people, it's just like, listen, this is the most optimal system. Foam boards, we shouldn't have to argue why all the benefits of foam boards. The membrane pans, I can see where you know it's still new, it's still fresh. But then you get to the whole idea of what's the biggest problem when you tear out, you know, showers. Like the pan has failed, the mud bed has failed, it's gunked up, it's got bacteria and all that crap in it. And going to a membrane system, right? It kind of fixes that problem. So it's just like, you know, if we're putting a new shower in, right? But we're eliminating the problem or the opportunity for the same problem to happen. And in theory, this should last much longer. So, and at the end of the day, it becomes more maintenance free.
Yep. And, you know, like we talked about before, it also has to be an installation that you want to do. So for me, most of my showers throughout my career had a thin set applied sheet membrane on the pan, 4 to 6 inches up, and then a liquid membrane on the walls. And the big reason for that is because I didn't want to install a sheet membrane on the walls when I can roll liquid. So it really does have to be an installation that you actually want to do.
Yeah, and it's also too, like, that also helps because sheet membranes on the walls, though you see them and people have optimized how to install them, it still takes a fair amount of time, and you can't technically tile right over them right away. Technically, I don't know how I'd feel comfortable putting large tiles against it. Maybe smaller subways, sure, but a nice 12 by 24 on a sheet membrane might pull it off the wall. So and having to wait an additional day.
Not only that, you have to be pretty damn ambitious to want to prep a shower and set it the same day.
Yes.
For me, prepping it and doing some other prep, that's good for the day, and then show up the next day ready to set tile. And
and I think me and Omar kind of talked about this is setting the sheet membrane on the wall, which I have my doubts against that. If you're going to put it up against a concrete backer board, I would support that. I don't like the idea of using drywall as a backer board. Yes, it's been done, but it's not really my thing. And at the money and time that you're spending, just get a foam board. But we talked about putting, you know, membrane on the wall and tiling the same day. In theory, you can, but then I think from like the slab point of view, that's a big piece of tile that you slap on the wall, and God forbid, you know, you got to pull it off to, you know, add some more thin set or something back there. And I mean, that's a lot of suction. Like, you will definitely pull that membrane off the wall potentially. Pulling that out, and you know, pulling slabs are already hard enough, let alone pulling it off of the membrane. So it's not a position I'd want to be in. But I guess, you know, it has its place and opportunities in different scenarios, and that's in the slab setting. I guess it wouldn't be optimal.
Yeah. So a lot of installations vary regionally. So the sheet membrane over drywall. Let's say you show up to a job, the drywall guy already installed green board, and you can just put a sheet membrane over it and tile. I would do that over tearing everything out, buying a new system, replacing everything. So I see the place for doing sheet membrane over drywall. But if you're starting from scratch, there's no way that's the way that I would do it.
Right.
But there are certain projects where, as a tile installer, you have to come in and you have to make things work within the project if you want the job.
Right.
Well, I just saw something yesterday that was showing. I guess there's some new thing going around now to where you can actually tile over fiberglass.
I'm not sure how well it would stick. I think what they're doing is they're doing fiberglass shower pans in place of a PVC liner. Yes. So they come in they do a pre-slope first, and then they do fiberglass, kind of basically the same as building a boat, and then bring the board over that, and then do the final mud bed over that. So it's just in place of a rubber liner. And honestly, I would probably rather do, I don't know, seems more solid than a rubber liner to me. So check us out. We're on Instagram, flowfx.usa. We have a Facebook group. Just type in FlowFX, and then it's Go With The Flow. Our website is flowfx.com. And yeah, that's the best way to find us. If you have a local retailer or distributor, it's always best for us if you purchase from them directly, especially if it's a chain like Best Tile, for instance. We're only in 4 of their 32 locations. So if we do well in their 4 locations, then hopefully we could expand into their other 28. But other than that, if you're in a location that doesn't have a store, flowfx.com is the best place to get our stuff. We ship every single day, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
And,
sounds good.
And I really want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your evening to talk to me. And this is a great experience for me. So appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Hopefully maybe we can get you back on at some point and pick your brain a little bit more. There's always a lot of knowledge to go around.